Okay, senior 6 students, welcome to the last session, the fourth one of another 20 minutes. This time round, we want to look at nationalism in Nigeria. And obviously, that will usher us into a new topic, rather a subtopic, which will be the Biafra crisis, or the Biafra cessation, or the Biafran war of secession. So, I want us to look at the obstacles in the Nigeria's path to independence. What limited the independence of Nigeria? The big size and population of Nigeria. It stretched from Niger Delta in the south to Hausa Highland in the north, Hausa land in the north. Its population was between 30 to 40 million. Wasn't easy to mobilize for anti-colonial efforts. Another obstacle to Nigeria's path to independence was the religious difference. You must understand that the northern were Muslims and ascribed to Islamic culture, while the southerners were largely Christians. These differences prevented joint action against the colonialists. Maybe what we need to understand, who was the colonial master of Nigeria? Obviously, the answer is the British. And of course, they did everything to object or limit the independence of Nigeria. Even when struggles were staged by Drs. Chuenimudi, that in 1946 the constitution was drafted, the Richards Constitution, all these were just preparations. Point 2, obstacle to Nigeria's independence, tribalism. The northern region was occupied by the Hausa, Fulani, the western region by the Yoruba, and the eastern region by the Igbo. So the parties they formed were tribal. For instance, the action group, which we call EDGE, was for the westerners, meaning the Yoruba people. And then the NPC, Northern People's Congress, and NCNC, National Council of Nigerians and Cameroons, was for Easterners. Hence, no concerted efforts against the colonialists. So the colonialists ruled without any difficulty because they were divided. The rejection of the action proposal for early independence caused tension between the southern and the northern. The northern thought that early independence would bring about the domination of the lesser educated. The easterners thought that the early independence would bring about the domination of the less educated northerners by the highly educated southerners. I think there is a mistake here. The northerners thought that the early independence, if the independence is given to the Nigerians or to Nigeria, would bring about the domination of the less educated northerners, who are the Muslims, the Fulani, Hausa, by the highly educated southerners. And in this case, the southerners are the Igbo people, together with the Yoruba. They had now been grouped into two, north and south. Secession tendencies. North, west, and east each wanted to receive an autonomous government from the west of Nigeria, I mean from the rest, northwest of Nigeria. And of course, we are going to see this evidence when we look at the Igbo secession or the Biafran secession. Highly educated Easterners, the Igbos, blessed with minerals, felt comfortable and decided to declare a secession, which we refer to as the Biafran secession. Lack of another obstacle, lack of charismatic leadership. The leaders who came up were parochial and not focused towards nationalistic goals. In other words, they were self-wishing. They were they were optimists. Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa and Ahmed Barrow struggled for the interests of the Northerners. Spiritualism. Awolowo for the Yoruba Western interests. Dr. Azikiwe for the interests of the Easterners. Igbo. For some time, Chief Awolowo and Dr. Azikiwe conflicted for some good time. How could independence come, really? There was a rift between the land and unland. Please note that. A rift between the land and unland, not UN land, no unland, whereby it took too long to reach out to the masses. The educated felt they cannot interact with the uneducated or illiterates, like it is today. Some of you have gone to school up to senior level, senior 6 level. You feel you have gone to school, you have read nothing, you've not read. And so you don't even want to greet a neighbor whom you cannot tell whether he went up to P7 or senior 4. They thought they were a class above the unlearned, not unlearned, not UN land. Colonial legacy. The British had created divisions in Nigeria so as to continue exploiting its resources. Of course, the British practiced what we call indirect rule. And so, divide and rule policy was the order of the day. The Richards and Macpherson constitutions, which only maintained the tribal and regional divisions, were also an obstacle to independence. When you look at these two constitutions, they considered the element of tribal management or tribal rule. It wanted a united Nigeria. The harsh British reaction to African strikes and demonstrations. When Africans when Africans demonstrated against the British reacted in a harsh way. A number of early nationalists, for example, between 1948 and 1950, more than 30 workers were shot for nothing on a plantation and in the mines. The poverty of Nigerians. For instance, to raise $13,000 to go to London to protest the Richards Constitution, Dr. Azikiwe comrades had to tour the whole of Nigeria, accompanied by singers and dancers, to solicit such amount of money to send him to Britain and present a petition for Nigeria's independence. Then I want us to look at the political instabilities in Nigeria. After obtaining independence on 1st October 1960, Nigeria was plunged into political chaos, resulting in civil war. And of course, this civil war is what we are going to dig deeper into as the Biafran Cessation, causes of the chaos or political instabilities in Nigeria. Traditional differences. Three powerful tribes existed in Nigeria, such as the Ngobi, who occupied the western region and had kings. There were the Hausa Fulani in the north, who were exposed to the rule of Imras, these are Muslims, leaders or sultans, and lastly, the Igbos, who occupied the eastern Nigeria or eastern region, and were traditionally led by village chiefs and not kings. You can see. So where they were led by village chiefs, they have no respect for kings, and so on. Such a difference in the background led to political instability in Nigeria. Ethnicism. Each of the three tribes of Nigeria, the Igbo in the east, the Ngobi in the west, and the Hausa Fulani in the north, wanted tribal supremacy over others. Sorry for this, I'm not propagating tribalism, but you look at one tribe in Uganda, per se the Baganda, would feel proud. It's a proud race. Says a four tuliwo. Oh, a Musoga would say, ni four tuliwo. We are the one there. So one tribe wants to sit on others, subdue them. This resulted into tribalism, tribal fears and suspicions, which later broke out into violence. Colonial legacy. The British failed to bring together the northern, the western, and the eastern region. Instead, the British introduced divide and rule policy, by which they widened the tribal differences and fear, henceforth, future instabilities. The divisive constitutions, divisive constitution, divisive, from the word divide or division, divisive constitution. When Nigerian nationalists demanded for political reforms and independence, the British issued the Richard's Constitution of 1946 and later Macpherson's Constitution of 1951. Now, two constitutions operated in one country. These two constitutions did not solve the problem, but neither served to entrench regional and ethnic nationalism in Nigeria. In fact, they didn't solve the problem, but they entrenched regional and ethnic nationalism, which would say tribal and regional development, which is not good. That's the civil war. Educational imbalances. The British had greatly equipped the Igbo and some Yoruba with modern education, while leaving the northern as largely uneducated. Although this served the British aim of divide and rule policies, the Easterners and the Westerners, who were sent to serve as civil servants in the north, became arrogant, leading to anger and tension. Hence, it's like picking a Muganda, Musoga, Munyankoro tribe and send him, highly educated, and send him to a region that is not educated. Is how you arrogantly, look at the rest of those tribes where you have been sent, like those who don't know anything. Religious difference. The northerners were predominantly Muslims, while the southerners were predominantly Christians. This created misunderstandings based on religious difference. Then economic imbalances. The northern Fulani occupied the same arid areas and were pastoralists. Their area was backward and poor as compared to either the Igbo or the Ngobi, who occupied fertile soils with several minerals and colonial developments like roads and plantations. This nationalism degenerated into regional feelings and war. The East and the West divide. Oh. The division did not only exist between the North and the South, but also a big one between the East and the West, despite their education. Since the regions had educated elites, they started conflicting for power so as to take the biggest share of the national cake. Dictatorship. The federal government under Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa's premiership started persecuting its opponents through arrest, imprisonment without trial, and censoring of the press, among others. The unfair arrest of Chief Awolowo. As a leader of the opposition, he traveled in different regions of the country, trying to win the minority of the tribes into the opposition party. The federal government arrested him in 1963 and sentenced him to 12 years imprisonment. This led to a political outcry and protests, and partly contributed to the 1966 coup, the rigging of the elections. The first independence elections of 1964-1965 were highly rigged in favor of the northern politicians. The election results were disputed, in other words, rejected, by the Easterners and Western politicians. And you know what follows next? It's a clash. Even in the Western region, its chief Akintola rigged the 1965 elections with the support of government. Competition for jobs. Both the educated Yoruba and Igbo stiffly competed for the civil service posts and job promotions. When the Igbo Vice Chancellor, Dr. Ine Njuki, was replaced by, with a Yoruba Vice Chancellor, S. Bayo Baku, at Lagos University, tribal tensions were fueled and contributed to the Civil War. Then another point, the 1963 population census. It's a fact that the northern region had a bigger population than either the west or the eastern regions. However, the 1963-1964 census showed exaggerated figures. For example, out of 55.6 million people, the northern region had 29.8 million, being the majority. It meant that to obtain a big share, they were to obtain a big share of the federal government budget. A larger number of federal government ministers, high recruitment in security agencies like police, army, and the rest. And of course, this caused regional tension and hence civil war. Then the wrangles for power in Western region. The president of the opposition party, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and his deputy, Chief S.L. Akintola, developed differences and conflicting for power. Chief Awolowo dismissed his deputy, Chief Akintola, who refused to quit. Violence broke out between their supporters in May 1962, and government intervention on the side of Akintola Hence, our war became bitter and raised his anti-government campaign. The Western type of political party is another factor. In an attempt to entrench neocolonialism, strengthen it, the British allowed the introduction of Western democracy in form of political parties. Unfortunately, these were created along tribal lines. For example, NCNC was basically for the Igbo. NPC was for the Northerners. Call them Hausa Fulani. While AG, not white AG, while AG for the Yoruba. Hence, unity was impossible, leading to a civil war. The vast size and population of Nigeria, it wasn't easy for the federal government to monitor what was going on in the whole of Nigeria. And this gave room for subversive activities, demonstrations, strikes, The Nigerian workers' strike of 1964 is another problem. Because of low wages, high prices for essential commodities, call them goods, and corruption by the businessmen, Nigerian workers rioted, not businesses. Because businesses cannot go for corruption. Nigerian workers rioted in 1964 damaging property and causing civil commotion in Lagos. The 1966 coup led to a civil war or civil instability in Nigeria. A small group of army officers, mainly of Igbo origin, staged the January coup and assassinated the Prime Minister Tafawa Balewa, Chief Achintola, Western Prime Minister or Premier, Sir Ahmed Barrow, Northern Premier. Many northern and western officers were also killed, though the coup was defeated by a loyal Igbo army boss, Major General Erroneous, and Igbo feelings grew strong in Nigeria. The issuing of the decree number 33 and number 34 on 24th May 1966 by Major General Erroneous. Decree number 34 abolished the old regions and created a unitary Nigeria with 35 provinces. Northerners who were less educated feared that this would deprive them out of their jobs in the civil service and partly contributed to the 1966 coup. Lieutenant Colonel Yakub Gowon succeeded Major General Erroneous and abolished the decrees. Third last. The declaration of the Biafran state on 30th May 1967 was the immediate cause of the civil strife. The Igbo independent state threatened the interest of the federal government and thus broke out a civil war. The discontent in the army. The Nigerian army tried to maintain professionalism, but politicians later divided it, as usual. Then in 1961, at independence, most senior posts in the army were occupied by the Southerners. In 1961, a quota system was introduced by which 50% of the senior officers were to come from the north, 25 from the east and west, making a total of 100. Because this north 25, east 25, it gives a total of 50 and the other 50,000. This soon led to the domination of high ranks by the Northerners, which bred ethnic tensions. Experienced soldiers were also unhappy at the promotion of younger, inexperienced soldiers, and hence the 1966 coup. Lastly, the July 1966 coup and Igbo genocide. General Iranians had promised a number of Igbos in the army. It should have been, had promoted a number of Igbos, not promised, had promoted a number of Igbos in the army, and had posted men to rule in the north, where they became very arrogant and harsh. In 1966 July, the Northern Junior Army officers staged a coup, arrested and killed Major General Iranians, along with Igbo soldiers and politicians. Hence, the Igbo protected themselves for further killings. Therefore, my students of Senior 6, when we meet, we want to look at the Biafran Cessation, which took place in 1967 as a second secession. So that the obstacle to Nigeria's path to independence, the problems that led to civil war in Nigeria, which we would call the political instabilities in Nigeria, is a precursor to the next topic, which is Biafran secession. In fact, if you understood the Katanga secession, then the difference is the similarity. It is time, that is 1967, Nigeria, 1960, Congo, and space. But almost everything remains the same. And who led these secessions? So I beg to end here. Thank you.